So I would announce it on that.
I just say slide, please. Yeah. I'll say, Ralph, pay attention.
Working in church, we got a lot of the time.
I'm ready.
Okay, our guest speaker tonight is K9NPD Howard. He's going to do a presentation on ham radio and the Boston Marathon bombing. What can I do for an introduction here? You've been licensed for 40 years, something like that?
1973.
All right, close enough. And Howard,
Each take one of these
Howard
and
is
pass
a
around.
communications consultant
Have a piece of
for
paper and no,
municipalities
just
throughout
you'll
New
need to
England,
write
including
stuff.
the Boston Police Department. And he's going to give us a presentation on the Boston Marathon bombing and radio before
Pass
and
those around,
after.
please.
Howard, the show's yours.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. We've got a good turnout tonight. Ralph, can you smoke in this school?
No.
Hold on a minute. What? Okay. You'll see I have a dry sense of humor. So we're going to talk about tonight information about the marathon, just be a quick summary of what happened. We're going to talk about ICS and my background, just to give you some creds. We're going to talk about the Bay Pern radio system that was used extensively during the marathon. And we'll listen to some actual marathon traffic on the Bay Pern system. Next, please. So basically, terrorists placed a couple of pressure cooker bombs, and pressure cooker makes for a much more powerful explosion. They had plenty of shrapnel in there. They exploded 13 seconds apart, which I'll talk about later. And 3 people died and 264 were injured. They all had life-threatening, traumatic bodily injury. And the reason why they didn't die is because we had 2 great trauma centers very close to the location. There's also a ton of ambulances from as far away as Falmouth staged outside the area, and had plenty of fire people. So pretty early on, the fire department declares it a mass casualty event. We'll talk about that too. Next. So the Boston Fire Department had a 2-alarm initial response after the explosion, and they brought in 50, 60 extra personnel. What often happens with an alarm or a big fire is they'll just keep bringing in equipment. They don't really need the equipment, but they need the manpower. There's about 4 guys on an engine, and they need a bunch of people. They all were called in. There's a full call out. So let's talk about my favorite subject, me. I've been a ham radio operator since 1973. I took about a 5-year break, and then I went back into it. I was an engineer in sales for a while. The database programming back then was we bought the software and we went to Fortune 500 companies in the White Plains area and set up custom systems for them. I hated it. I was a call firefighter while I worked in New York and Connecticut. All call fire means is you go out, you get paid. It's usually something substantial when you go out. I was a full-time police officer in Nashua. It was a good life experience, and have lots of good stories about it, but that's another night. So I'm a tactical communications consultant, and I volunteer with ham groups. I like to do field day and stuff. I've done a lot of presentations at different Aries groups, mostly about tactical communication. I presented it when they had the Aries Academy. Now it's all on YouTube. And I'm going to present next year at the Hamvention. And the way I got into that was I was at the marathon and ran into a guy that's like a, he's helped from the Hamvention, and that's how we got there. So, like I said, I've been a ham for 40 years. I've done net control for hundreds of events over the years, sets, public service activities, things like that. And I've worked for NGOs, which everybody likes in acronyms in the government, non-governmental organizations. That would be like the Red Cross. I have trained law enforcement and other very high performance user needs, like a SWAT team, and other agencies over 30 years. I'm semi-retired now, and I do it because I like it. So that's me. I think it was at the Penadnog running event. So this is what I do as a consultant. All kinds of stuff. Oh, sorry.
Don't think you've been saying that.
Ralph, slide, 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 slide.
Watch the screen. Tell me when to stop. Your experience. Yeah, you didn't make a slide.
Next, 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 next.
There he is.
Boy, you really follow instructions, I'll tell you. You know,
Talk to me once in a while.
yeah. I also want to say I'm very happy that there was a peaceful transfer of power in this organization. So as a consultant, and this is a incident command system term, I'm a communications leader. I was a communications specialist, then a group leader, and now I'm a leader. So we do lots of stuff related to communications. At first, I was a plug and play guy. That's what a lot of it is. And I learned all the capabilities and buttons you could push on these radios. Excuse me. As much as we can, we don't Bluetooth or any of that. Everything's physically plugged together whenever possible. So that's it. And sometimes I'm doing something where I go with them, make sure the comms stay on, have backup stuff. In Boston, we have a mobile equipment truck. And that's if we have to set up somewhere in emergency, he goes and they start lugging stuff inside wherever and get something up. Next. This is me on a fairly large scale exercise in Virginia. It was at a secret underground location underneath the Greenbrier Resort. Now, I'm telling you where it is because everybody found out where it is, and it now has a tourist walkthrough that you can do. And it wasn't cheap. Next. I'll get it. So I like to boil things down and make them simple. The definition of a mass casualty incident is basically you need a lot more than you get locally and immediately. And that's when you declare one. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll make it interactive as much as you want. So triage is basically evaluating a patient and figuring out who goes first, who's high priority, who's middle, and who's walking. This is a field tag. It's actually used. Next slide. Come on, Ralph. Next. I said next.
We're on triage.
Next.
Pediatric triage. Now we're up to field tag.
Yeah, so we have, these are usually tags that get tied on to people. If they start a tourniquet, they'll write down the time. They'll note where the injuries are. And these here rip off the bottom. That means they really don't need anything slow, rapid, and dead. So
That's quick.
the purpose of those is so a doctor, whatever, can visually see right away who's priority and who isn't. They had a lot of doctors there that day and nurses. So on the ham radio side, they've got a bunch of specific manuals of documentation. Everybody's supposed to read all of them and particularly read the one that they're going to function in. So they also have a couple of pre-event in-person meetings somewhere like in Framingham or whatever. And people who've never done it before come in, and the documentation and emails is really important, so people can just step in and do it. Guy asked me one year, I said, how long have you been doing this? I don't recognize you. He said, this is my first one. I said, you're screwed. So it's important to know later that the bus system was run by hams. There was a transponder and a ham radio operator on every single bus. And that became important later on. So they have every document you could think of. I contribute to a few of them. And even decision making, they set up very instant command management style, like planning an event. So next, never drink. So this is all the documentation they had for the amateurs for the whole thing. Next, please. See? So even New Hampshire Aries has an operations plan, and some of it is instant command management style. So I'll talk about the instant command system. In the late 60s, Vietnam was on. There was a lot of violent and destructive demonstrations. In Cambridge, there was quite a bit. So the Cambridge police had backups. They had the Newton police and all their riot gear all staged in a close place, and other department too. And what they found out was, by the time you get a message to your dispatcher, he calls up the other town and gives them a message, and then they put it out on the radio. Cambridge police were almost getting overrun, and there was help right around the corner. A lot of things about radio in incidents is you always have less resources than you need. So you really want to direct them by radio exactly where you need them. So ISS includes procedures and basically temporary management organizations that are at least nationally used by everybody. When they had the hurricane Puerto Rico, wish I could talk about how they vet the hams, but the police had no understanding of what ham radio channels were available and so forth. They put it on ICS 205, which is a frequency channel plan, and they said, oh, okay, gotcha. So it's important to use the system. You're running on ICS system from the very beginning to the very end of an event until basically you have no further need for operations. It's very important, and I do some of this, after you are making the plan with everybody's input, that you show every agency and jurisdiction what the plan is, because you will get feedback from them that really helps you to tweak it. Next, please. Okay, so this is a basic structure of the system. The guy at the top is the incident commander. Most of the time, you only have one. And he's where the buck stops. He's in charge of everybody and everything. But they find more than 5 to 7 people that report to him is overload. So they try to parse everything out. These are the 4 main areas: operations, planning, logistics, and financial. Now, I like to make things simple. Operations are the doers, planning are the thinkers, logistics get stuff, they're scroungers sometimes, and financial are the bean counters. The bean counting can be important because you want to get paid back. Sometimes people declare an emergency a little bit early because they want the meter to start running for that government money to get paid back. Okay. Next. Next. So you can expand and make it very complicated what trees you're going to have in the hierarchy. I've been the safety officer. I've been a liaison officer. I'll never be a public information person. It's either nobody remembers you or you're screwed. So I don't know enough and I won't do it. So things can expand out. Next, please. So this is everything's got a number. This is a 309. It's basically logging. And you're basically, unless you have an assistant dispatcher, you're writing down all the transmissions of significance that you can. And like explosion, I'm going to write that down. And other important communications. So you have a log when you listen to the recording or whatever. Next, Ralph. So this is a communications frequency plan. It's got all the information you would need to have everybody on the same page as to what channels we're going to operate on. And that's what was used in Puerto Rico finally to get everybody understanding. ARL has mentioned that you can't put enough channels on this. There's a Excel program. You can get 40 or 50 lines on one page. So they are coming around. Next. Okay. So I think I should go to the next one too. So an organization called EMI under FEMA takes care of educating people in how to do ICS. All these courses can be taken at home. They're about 2 hours a piece. And I think if you just say EMI classes, it'll go to the site. Could you pass around the pieces of paper? Everybody needs paper and a pen if they don't have them. I'm going to make it work. So it's very easy to do from home. There's a lot to learn. You can learn, and not if there's a disaster here, when there's a disaster here, you can speak agency ease, understand that stuff. It could be good for winter field day, some of it. So if you're getting started, I recommend ICS 100. It's basically, a looking down view of how the ICS works. And that's about 2 hours. ICS 200 is basically an initial action plan. You understand how the mechanics are going to work. And ICS 700, government acronym, NIMS, is basically an introduction to the national management system. And usually you're EC or somebody else to learn that one. So next. There we go. So I've put up there how hams do tactical communicating. Basically, you use your tactical call sign all through the conversation. And at the end, you put in your last message and you give your call sign, both stations. And that's a pro word that means I'm done. So, one calls the other. They do their business. Why do we use tactical call signs? Because we don't care who's there. People might be at Elliott Hospital and they leave and someone else comes in. We don't care. We just know what the function is. And people who aren't involved know what the function is. So I might say Elliott Hospital, identify. If we have people coming in from other areas that want to talk to us, I would say Elliott Hospital, Manchester. If they're way out of the area, I might even, near the border of Nashua, might even say Nashua, St. Joe's Hospital. So that's basically that. So now if everybody has a piece of paper, I'm going to have you write down a message about the shuttle. And the scenario is you're shadowing an incident command person. He says, I need to go into a meeting, listen to my walkie-talkie, and if you hear something significant, let me know when I come out. So don't do this like a radiogram. And hint, try to use shorthand. For example, if I'm copying a formal message and they say Manchester, I'll put down MAN, I'll fill it in afterwards to get things faster. So if you're ready, I'm going to give you this message and try to use my hints there to copy it down. So you don't have to write this, it's to county, the sheriff basically, and that's the guy I'm shadowing. And here's the message that comes out. Space Shuttle Debris Advisory. Call Chemtech 966-566-2817. NASA requests that local law enforcement be sent to the scene of the debris and secure the scene. Treat all material as hazardous material. Do not touch or move the debris. Nancy will respond to collect the debris. And that's it. Did anybody think they got the whole thing? Okay. Well, I'll show you how I did. That's everything abbreviated in the message. So I got the important message parts and some hand. So then before the sheriff came back out, I wrote it this way. I filled it in, made it clear, and handed it to him. So it's something you can try. Most police in the field that pull over to copy that, they'll get it. Next. Oh, God. So in New Hampshire Aries, these are 8 things that the Aries at the state level would like hams to be able to do. And I think it's a decent list. The only thing I'd add to that is you should be able in the field, and you can have a cheat sheet or whatever, you should be able to program a channel of a repeater into your walkie-talkie when you're in the field. That's a good skill to have. On these $5,000 Motorola radios, they don't let you do that. So there's a number of kinds of nets, and we use some of them. There's a tactical net. That's basically the tactical channel where everybody's real-time coordinated on everything. Then you have a resource net. Am I reading? Yeah. And that's basically if you have a huge operation, you've got assets coming in, you collect the information, put them on a list to make sure the net control gets it. The next one is logistics. It's basically a resource net in a way that they get stuff. So when they're trying to coordinate getting a boat or a helicopter, whatever, they go to that net. Should have brought my glasses. Yeah, an infinite information net is basically updates on the situation and yeah, answering general questions. Health and welfare messages. Next slide. Hams handle a lot of that, and the source of a lot of them is a non-government agency like Red Cross, and it's valuable. Go back, please. So I'm going to show you a tactical message, and you can look at it and see what you think. Next. So there's the message. You can look at it, and what I want you to ask yourself is, how can I make this shorter? How can I make this succinct? You don't have to tell me, but just look at it. It's a bit of a rag chew, in my opinion. Next, please. That's the short version. That's what I like. Tactical messages are short. They're simple. They don't have a lot of concepts in them. They're very time perishable. The longer you wait to get the message sent, the less value it has. For example, the damn bus go uphill. You don't want to wait 5 minutes to say that. Next. Oh, so that again, that's a sample message. Again, it's DPW to EOC. And he says, I need this. And they talk back and forth. And on ham radio, when you're done, again, it's what function you are or Elliott Hospital. And you give your call sign, that means I'm done with the communication. Oh, yeah. So there's health and welfare. That's basically what I said. So we have all kinds of things that have to do with plans for the incident command system. Every organization I can think of has a plan. State Homeland Security has a plan. And it's very ICS-like in what's in there. There's also Homeland Security has something, what we're called as ham radio operators is OXCOM. And where we fit basically on the plan is under communications. So that's where we sit according to the federal government. So here's a form that's used. It's, I'll get to that. Basically, you write down a question you need answered. You go like this, or some of them have like lights on them, and a runner comes over, takes it to the other guy writes down the response, and he runs it back. And they do that because you can do two things at once. They're all kept as a paper trail, and it's a very convenient thing to do at a large operation. So here's the New Hampshire Aries ICS 213. What it is pretty much is an ICS 213 wrapped in a radiogram. But again, these are usually used by people to run stuff around in a large EOC. So the 201 is used by the Boston Marathon, could be used for Winter Field Day. It's about a 10-page document. And as you go through it, every single thing you could think of for the incident or event, it'll take you through it. Channels, who's working where, all that kind of stuff. On the first page, you can like draw a map and get a perspective of what's going on. And this is the, again, the way we record traffic on the radio, especially like an explosion. We also have, again, we like to plug things in and have paper. This tells you what to do if there's a possible explosive device in the vicinity, depending on the size. Then this one basically shows how far out you have to be. In Nashua, we had a jet fuel tanker overturned down into the median. So what do the police want to do? I'll be at the 1,000-foot mark, stopping traffic, no problem. I'm not going in there. Now, here's a band you probably haven't heard of. It's the T band. And what it simply is, without reading all the gobbledygook, is it's a high part of the UHF band that's only used by large urban areas across the country for communications. And they use UHF, of course, because in a city, it penetrates buildings better and all that. They also have some stuff now on 700 megahertz, and that stuff's often encrypted. In New York, this is how many radios are on the system in New York City. If you can't see it, portable radios over 56,000, mobiles 6,000, base stations, auxiliary stations 1,500. So the system can be very big. So I'll talk about the Baypern system. Thank you. It is in the early 70s. It's way ahead of its time. After the riots, they said, we need interoperability. So they basically have all of Eastern Massachusetts. And basically, every mobile radio is the same. Channel 1 is your department's channel. And other channels for other things are out there. So if you're in Brookline, Mass, and chasing a car and you go into Cambridge, you can punch a button and talk directly to the Cambridge dispatcher. However, channel 1 is top priority. If your dispatcher says, discontinue, Cambridge has the chase, you'll hear it and you'll acknowledge. So like in Brookline, units are called 541, 542, based on what sector they're in. If you go to another channel, you say Brookline 542, so they know who you are. You identify more specifically. So at the marathon, a lot of initial immediate notifications were made on that interoperative system. You can read that. A BOLO is be on the lookout. That's when they put out somebody they want. And my sergeant read one from Mass. He didn't know what a BOLO was. He's trying to say, BOLO? And we had to tell him what it was. So the most significant example of use of the Baypern tactical system was officer safety issues, shots fired, bombs being thrown at the responding officers, trying not to have crossfire, things like that. There were large field command vehicles out there, and they were notified of things like, and they're big, and they were told about low wires in certain places and just a lot of information to make things successful. The cell network was overloaded. I'm not sure if they actually turned things off. Steve says they did. Mhm. That's right. So text was the way to possibly get in a queue and get through eventually. So this is the general area where the bomb activity was. It's on Boston Street, all the way into the finish line. And please memorize that. Just kidding. Thank you, Ralph. That is basically what was going on in the area of Boylston Street. As I said, there were two explosions, slightly different locations, 13 seconds apart. Now, most terrorists will set off a bomb, wait about 3 or 4 minutes for all the responders to get there, and then blow up the next one. And that really makes things it depletes your resources. Do you want to take a break? Okay, I peed. So let me just set this up for a quick minute. These don't plug anymore, they're on Bluetooth. This is a Motorola speaker. Good. What it does is, like most Motorola systems, it tries to hone in on the voice frequency range and try to lessen all the background noise. And during events like this, you have to take off your speaker mic and do that. Most guys don't wear earphones. Okay. So I've taken the radio traffic, I've cut out right up till the explosion happens. I've also edited the rest of it so you can hear a bunch of it to have no dead air time. So you hear the first 20 seconds, it's rapid fire. After that, I've got everything without any airtime gaps. That's right, I put them on here.
This here?
Yeah, that'd be good.
So they Zoom folks.
How many people on Zoom tonight? Good. We had to pull chairs from the back, so I'm really happy with this. Definitely got to bring the glasses. This is the Boston Police. This is their operations channel. Can you hear in the back? Next slide, please. When someone says help, other than when you're drowning, it means nothing. What do you need? Where are you? What's going on? Now, the dispatcher, who's really good, I know him, he immediately takes command of the channel. He basically tells everybody, shut up. And what he's looking for is the supervisor in the field. That's who he wants to hear. H&H is Health and Hospital. That's Commissioner Davis. Not this. Where I worked is called the UCC. It's the Unified Command Center. All the incident commanders from all the different disciplines are there. When the bombs went off, I came off the radio and I was working phones. A lot of the communication was by landline, hardwired landline, and it took a lot of stuff off the air. A little bit of this is redacted. There's another channel that's basically really tactical. I don't have anything from that. We'll keep going a little bit more. Meanwhile, in the staging area, which is a little ways from the event, there's a bazillion ambulances staged there out of the way, as far away as from Falmouth. And they all can talk interoperably, which is big stuff these days. Come on. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're sitting there. I gotta just. Sorry, Stanley, repeat. We can't hear. We're and running. I'm not. Yes, go. We're just.
So that's some ham radio. I don't really have anything of that, but a guy's saying, I'm downtown. I want to dump and run. So then they didn't understand that's unusual. So he says, I'm going to dump and run. And she says, go, go.
Left on the Red Sox team right outside of it. As soon as that expires, we're going.
It's after the game.
Before that finish line because the boss are.
Oh, Lisa and Sam are on their
Can't wait back to Ruben, is that okay?
That's him.
We have another, and Boylston and Fairfield. We need to set up a Boylston and Fairfield, guys. Boylston, anybody out of there, use caution. There might be possible. Use caution. Devices. Calm. I will get them here. We're out going away. We'll get them to you, sir. We'll get them.
All dispatch can say to try to bring down the intensity is, they're on the way, sir. They're on the way. And so maybe I'll play a little more of Boston PD later. Next slide, please. Go back one. Yeah. So after this, the fire department gets a call for something exploded or burning at the JFK library at Columbia Point. So I hear all the incident commanders standing near me saying, how big is this? Geez, how big is this? And at another point, well, we'll play a little more. Another slide, please. Yep. So now we'll do the Boston fire response. They're a little more used to the gore than the police. Frankly, a policeman gets to an ambulance call and the ambulance isn't there yet. He's probably feeling like taking a ride around the block till it gets there. They're trained first responders, but they don't like to do that so much. And I had my own little tricks. I'd go in, the guy's having a heart attack. I take his pulse. I don't know what I'm doing really. And I say, you're going to be fine. And they kind of calm down. Okay. So there's fire. I should have it.
Hi, Deanna.
Yeah, I want you hearing that one. So I'm looking for okay, I know how to get it. So here's Boston Fire. This one I didn't redact anything. I kept the dead air time in because some of them are talking pretty quick.
Caution.
5, we've had an explosion. Straight, check the block. 5, explosion, what's the location? Still. Company.
Next slide.
I have an unknown location. Did you get a location? The library 760. 71! 671!
This is the most emotion I've ever heard on the air. These guys care, they're overwhelmed, and they're emotional. Normally I train people on the air to talk in a flat monotone, enunciate, think of what you're going to say before you push the button, things like that. And everybody was very amped up.
We have multiple people down. Strike the box to 671 Boylston Street. We have multiple people down. Again, 7 year clear. Five.
I knew the guy who was the fire dispatcher, and I just thought of this. He has the best chain smoker voice I've ever heard. He's very baritone.
You're close enough. Say again the message. On the corner of Fairfield and Boylston, if you can get an ambulance. Okay, I only got Fairfield and Boylston. What do you have? In Boylston, Ring Road in Boylston. We need an ambulance. Ring Road at Boylston. Ring Road at Boylston. Yeah, they have that. For 671 Boylston.
So at this point, I'm telling the mobile equipment unit to go where the commissioner set up a good command post, which was at a hotel near the Copley Hotel. The police tried to set up a command post at the Boylston Street Fire Station, and they figured this isn't safe either. So Commissioner Davis said, I've got a ballroom here, let's go. And that's where everybody went. And it was a much better idea. He basically was the public information officer. He'd been there all day. And the chief of police was running in the marathon. They pulled him out, took him to get a uniform on, and took him right to the scene. So that doesn't happen anymore either.
Engine 33. Mark 671 Boylston. Ladder 15, do you have that? 15 has it. I want a fire alarm. All companies use caution. We have a stereo in the streets. All the streets are blocked with civilians. All companies use caution.
Alert Tom.
All companies responding to 1572. Use caution. There's a stereo in the streets per car 4. All companies use caution. 2. Colorado 17 on 2. We have reported 2 explosions here. We have Colorado 17. A dozen people with serious injuries.
When you transmit on a channel, there's not the channel you're assigned to. You say on channel 2 or on channel 7. so they know where to pick you out of.
Go ahead. Good thing we're at the incident. We're in front of 774 Boylston Street. Two explosions. We have a multi-casualty incident here.
There we
have
go.
at least a dozen serious injuries. 17, you're at the end.
So once that's declared, every fire truck in Boston is going there. They also had almost 50 people responding from home, full call out. And like I said, normally a bunch of equipment comes there because they have 4 people on each rig. So they get their manpower that way normally, but they called everybody in. The police had some other people come in, but they had plenty. The route had 30,000 runners for the 21 miles, and there were 5,000 cops along the route. My advice to them was, don't get on the air. If you have a really big emergency, go to your department frequency, but we're not going to, please don't talk.
There's at least 2 explosions, a dozen serious injuries, a multiple injury incident.
She's shook. All right. So we'll do a little bit more and then we'll call it a night.
People were listening to that channel. Everyone.
A lot of people, scanner people were, they didn't know about some of the channels.
I mean, like the police, the fire department.
Every agency in Eastern Mass was alerted and got on the air. State police was asked to bring in their dogs and all the EOD guys. There was a massive push. The state police, SWAT teams. There were those armored Bearcats there. 2 SWAT members, they called everybody up, said, get your long rifles and report. 2 SWAT members were sent to Mass General, and they had one of those Bearcats with them. And the director of the hospital, I've never walked in the hospital and had to see guns out there. They also went to Tufts and 1 or 2 other hospitals. Using those tags I showed you, the walking wounded, basically a Boston paddy wagon, which is to transport prisoners. If they're the walking wounded, they'd stuff them in there and take them to a further out hospital. The bus net, the ham net, was now doing stuff to help get people on the route transported around. Ham radio became tasked with other people, stop every runner where they are. And I said, we have people all along the route, medical tents and everything. And I said, they're hams. You have to tell them to be loud, assertive, and physically get out there and do it. And they did. So the whole race stopped wherever you were. The runners have a very strong mission to finish no matter what. So it's not easy. I like to say I participated in the Boston Marathon. Here's a little EMS. We'll have to link to this. You should be connected. I love technology, especially without a plug. Okay, see if it works.
Where are you heading in with? I'm sorry. I'm in the chill one. I have it. We have it.
I'm going to be 2089.
Thank you.
All right, Greg, we're applying a tourniquet. 455 534 We're going to be on Delhi. Applying a tourniquet as we speak.
I'm going to be 2342 for that. Thank you.
We'll take the phone out of the loop, see if that helps. So EMS communications, in a very short time, were all calmed down. They all use their standard procedures. They're calling in when they applying a tourniquet and they're writing it on the tag. Police didn't have a real good time with, they're missing a leg and stuff like that. Lots of people jumped in and got belts and tried to do temporary tourniquets. And they were pretty calm. They were the best used, radio discipline out of all the groups. Again, cops, it's an ambulance call. They want to drive around the street until the ambulance gets there first. So they're not big into that stuff. Next slide. There we go. That's you. Go ahead. Previous slide. Click on the speaker there. Okay. So they're very disciplined. They're doing a normal day-to-day communication. Stop it. Go to the speaker. Yeah, good. Okay. So there are a lot of security changes after that. You can read that. So, yeah, the next time I came in to do the marathon, I'd done about 15 times with the hams, and then I was getting paid for it. And we had to all buy clear backpacks. So when we were going in, you just do that. And if you're vetted or you have a place you're supposed to be, they'll let you in. I got one almost immediately when I heard about it, and they were like back ordered 3 weeks or something. And again, the dogs, instead of just doing it before the race, they do it constantly and when they just want to do it, and that helps. Again, my advice was stay off the air. That's the best thing you can do. So what's in it for you? Try to take a couple of the courses on incident command system. Then you can talk agency ease when you're on their channel or sit next to an emergency manager. Be good to get a little more familiar with talking tactically. And one of the best things I've done with people that kind of works is think what you're going to send, write it down, and then send it. So people are basically lazy. And just by having to write it, it gets shorter and shorter. Any more questions? Anybody got questions? Yes.
So back when this occurred, did they have no radio?
Baypern continues to be analog. They're going to go to P25, at least they told me 6 years ago. And I'm hoping to get a new radio when they do that, because if they give an encrypted radio, you can't figure out what the code is. It's in the radio. Thank you very much. Got a lot of people. Steve? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wound up taking care of all the runners they had to stop. That was a particularly cool day, if I remember right. We had a lot of hypothermia. So you had everything going on at the end of the race, plus at every single station. We lost 10 pounds that day because we ran and ran and ran. I only had two other hams with me. One of them was brand new, and one of them shouldn't have been there in the first place. And that was pretty typical. We had 25, maybe 30 police cars there. Within about 30 seconds, we had one. It was so bad you could smell the carnage from downtown. It was approximately 4 miles out, but the wind was coming that way. So the runners were running into the wind. We had to take all of our vehicles and start every one of them and put these people into those vehicles to keep them warm. We had more people than we had space in the vehicles. So we rotated them. We were not alone. Some of these stations didn't have that many vehicles. It was something else.
It sure was. I think Steve had the same experience when we left and went into a restaurant, four of us to get something to eat. It was free. We had our jackets on and it was free. People were very nice.
It was. I don't even know the restaurant I wound up in because they had asked for volunteers to go downtown and all of us said yes. But the station commander said no. And he controls the station. Absolute authority. He said, no, you've done enough. Go home, see your family.
Yeah.
So I went to go get something to eat. I wanted some restaurant somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. I walk in. I had forgotten I still had my jacket on. I mean, you couldn't miss these. These were the yellow jackets that year. They took one look at me and said, where would you like to sit? I said, in the darkest corner you've got. And that's where they put me. And they literally built a barricade so no one would bother me. It was the most eerie thing I've ever encountered.
Right.
And the drinks were free. I don't remember about the food being free, but the drinks were free. I do remember that. And
so, go ahead.
We were told at the end, and they kept repeating it, if you need to talk to someone, you let us know. A lot of people had to talk to people. It was pretty bad. And I wasn't at ground zero, yet it was still pretty bad.
Okay. So what we found out in that marathon is it takes a lot less time to cool somebody off than to warm them up. And as a result, some med stations, like at a Wellesley High School, over capacity big time. So what happened the next year is they got more space and more warm-up bags and stuff in case it was cool again. I did exposure therapy on this thing. I listened to those radio channels over and over till I just, okay, it's okay. The last thing I saw walking out was a dead child under a tarp, and a state trooper there had attention. That was the end point of my day. It was time to get some food. We did have box lunches, and they were very good. So we were fed. We had water and everything. We could have stayed there for days if we had to. But so that's about it. If you would fill out a evaluation, if you need a pencil or anything, hope everybody has one. When you pass it in, you'll be in the raffle, and we'll draw on those evaluations. So I should have said it while I was talking. Andrew.
Anthony.
Yeah.
So my question now.
REK. Go ahead.
What was the date of the marathon? What day of the week it was, and what time did it happen?
It's Monday, the 15th of April, Patriots Day in Mass every year. It's 11 to 12 years now since it happened.
2010?
13.
13, okay.
Yeah, it's 11 years ago. I went to public school. I don't do the math too good. And it was really the 2:30 range.
Okay.
Yeah, early afternoon. Any other questions? Please fill those things out. So that's it. I'm really glad everybody showed up like this and we had people on. Go ahead.
Let me get this straight. We have a door prize tonight?
We have 2 door prizes, but you have, yes, sir. They're supposed to have been passed around. Uh, uh, oop. Piled at error. There you go. Sir. Of course.
And you may want to speak to it. The following year, it was a very different course. I was still at Fox 18, and there were so many military vehicles there you couldn't imagine. SWAT teams, state police, local police, sheriffs. I mean, it was ridiculous. In my particular case, the high point was that there was this group of people in front of me, and I couldn't figure out why there was such a big group. It was a circle of people.
Mhm.
It was state police, local police, and then guards in between. Turns out we had a guest, very high profile guest. His first name was Tom. Quarterback, Patriots. I actually have a picture of him. But the number of military vehicles that were there were scary because they had staged everything at Fox 18 because they shifted us to a bigger spot.
Yeah, it's very changed from before. There's like 4 helicopters up. There's radiation, air quality detection. There's drones up. And there's SWAT people where have the high ground and you don't see them. So,
And the following 2 years, I wound up doing net control. I wasn't going to go back out there.
yeah, I never was in the field.
Howard, we're supposed to memorize the number one here. We'll turn it into you.
Remember the number. I'm seeing who has what number and I'm going to pick them. My pay depends on these, so. Remember your number, please. Fill out 1, please. Andrew, you can do 2. Oh, while you're doing that, I just want to re-recognize Tim for winning that contest. That's really good. I want to recognize you because you won that contest. That's pretty good. Yeah.
I did the Boston Marathon when I was a technician. It was the first thing I did when I got my ham radio license. It was absolutely bombing though.
Yeah.
It was very secure. There was a lot of security then.
Yes. 1 year I was at the MEMA bunker, which is on Route 9 in Framingham. The operations center is 3 stories below ground. And at the entrance, we had a state trooper with a long rifle. And by the elevators, we had a state trooper with a shotgun. So I let people know I was probably going to be safe. I also rode around 1 year with the FBI. I worked with the FBI as a liaison police officer when Bush Senior was in town as a vice president, and he brought his wife. So I met this guy from the FBI that had this van that had, like, they had microwaves up and all kinds of things. So I was very curious about it, but I really couldn't go in. So this guy came over. He's basically a deputy director locally, and he took me in. I told him what I like to do. I told him I love this thing. He got me started in the business by hooking me up with some agencies in the Boston area. He passed away, but very good friend, very good friend.
You got them all?
Now we all want your pen.
What's the prize? It's like Quan Chang.
There'll be two. Watch. Quan Shang is it's a Chinese swear word. Yeah.
I got over 30 years out of that.
So the first door prize is, even if you're a technician, you'll be able to operate this. Most people are familiar with it. So we'll do number 27. 27? Yeah. Okay. Don't break it when you open it. Be careful. Show everybody what you got. The second one, if you don't have use for this, give it to somebody who you know could use it. What's your number again, Steve? 36. Do we have a 36? As they say, rigged. There you go. Shake it out.
Did you get them to fill out the evaluation?
Hmm?
Did you get them to fill out the evaluation?
ARRL.
No. I'll ask them thumbs up or thumbs down, maybe. That's it. That's it. That's your equipment.
It's full of air.
It's winter air. Yeah. So that's a coffee cup, ARRL. Police know how to use those too. So the other one is a guide to Morse code. Seems to be more Morse code activity in the club. So I got that. If you want it, you can keep it. If not, give it to somebody like Tim who's teaching everybody. Okay.
Question from Bill.
And all these witnesses. Since this is the first Ralph meeting, I think we should say, the king is dead, long live the king.
Like I said, good, nice, smooth transition of power. By the way, whoever's the vice president, I want to talk to you. Okay. I want to talk to you about the immigration plans. You're going to be the czar, right? Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Hope it didn't run too long.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yeah.
You know John McDermott?
Yes, I think he was in the,
He's my, he started out my boss.
mhm.